Hello, everyone. Hopefully, you can see us. I'm Maureen Taylor, the photo detective, and I'm joined today by,
Nancy Desmond from Memory Web.
yep, we're the dynamic duo talking today about the things we talked about at Roots Tech and the recap. Hopefully, you can hear us. This is a crowdcast event, which means that there is an Ask the Question button at the bottom of your screen, and you can click that and add questions there. And we will periodically look there to see what you have asked us. This is being recorded, so you can watch it later. We anticipate this being somewhere around 30 minutes, might be a little bit less, might be a tiny bit more. This is really just intended to be sort of a recap for what we covered at Roots Tech. And if you didn't have a chance to watch our presentations, check them out. But also, we'll be covering some of the same stuff today, only much more briefly. And I think Nancy's going to share the screen. Nancy, I will be watching the chat
Okay,
um, to see
sounds good.
what we've
Oh, and I just
got.
want to clarify, we have a question. I posted a link to a handout that was part of our presentations during Roots Tech, part of those the online materials that you could find when you go to Roots Tech. And I just pasted that quick link in there. It sounds like it's actually blocked. You might actually have to go in through Roots Tech to be able to download that PDF. But that's what that is. And Gary, to answer your question, it's part two is just meaning my part of the presentation covered that for the Roots Tech presentation. So there's no part to today, to part two to today. It was just for the previous presentation. So I'm going to go ahead and launch this now. And
And we're super excited to be here and to have all
yes,
of you
we
here.
are. All right, I'm going to slideshow and share. And let's see, hopefully we can see this.
Boom, there we are.
Okay, I think so. Great. Excellent. Okay. So, Roots Tech Recap, ask us anything. So, today, Maureen and I are here to just give you a recap of each of our segments of this two-part presentation. We'll give you a summary and then also answer some questions people have already submitted and then do some live Q&A.
I'm ready when you're ready, Nancy.
Okay.
Our
So,
agenda is a brief recap of the sessions with a Q&A, submitted questions, and live questions. So put them in the chat or put them in the Ask a Question. All right, so part one of our Roots Tech two-part class, and we want to thank all the people that watched it at Roots Tech. Really wonderful conference this year. Last year they just went virtual for the first time. There's a learning curve today. This year, I think everything went pretty smoothly. I talked about gathering and digitizing. So best practices for preparing your photos for scanning, the types of equipment to use, the file formats to use, tools for enhancing photographs, and then how to label your digitized images to aid organization. The next slide, I think I go a little deeper, right? Yep. 3 takeaways from part one. Yep. So 3 takeaways from my part. Actually, Nancy, go back one slide because I'm not sure we actually have a whole lot of slides. There we go. The types of equipment to use. I did give you an overview of the different types of scanners that you can use. You can use a flatbed scanner, my preference. You can use your phone to photograph images front and back. You can use a portable studio. I know that Shotbox demonstrated or had a booth for their portable studio, and also Vivipix this year has a different type of scanning device that they were selling as part of a much higher end product. The file formats are pretty simple. You always use a TIFF. JPEG is for sharing online, but you always do a TIFF. And the tools for enhancing the photos, I mean, there are a lot of them out there now. Ancestry.com announced what they're doing. You can do some enhancement on the app with Memory Web. MyHeritage, of course, and now you can make your ancestors talk. As Daniel says, cool and controversial all at the same time. And certainly Vivipix, you can enhance and color and fix your pictures. And then how to label digitized images. to aid organization. I keep my file names really, really simple. Last name underscore first name underscore B for born date and the date underscore and the date of the photo. All right, Nancy, next slide. The key takeaways from part one are things like you make sure you sort your images into common groups before you scan. So if you have a lot of snapshots and they're all in a box and they're just a mess and you think you're just going to scan them as you find them in the box, probably not the best plan. It's a good idea to take that box and somewhat organize it. So you've got all of, Auntie Sue's birthday party. You want to make sure you put all those together in a file, and you want to scan them all together so that you create a folder on your computer. And Nancy will talk more about that in her section. And then always keep the negatives. And I have tested this. So if you have, say, 1970s prints, they're sort of on a linen paper. They're very blurry and fuzzy, and I have tried to enhance them with all the tools on the market, and they're still fuzzy and icky. If you have color changes that you can't fix or it's going to take too much to fix them, I scan the negative if I have it, and guess what? I don't have any problem with any of it. I can convert it into a positive. If it's a slide, I can scan the slide perfectly. If it's a 1970s negative, when I scan the negative, it's crisp and clear. It is not fuzzy like on that linen paper. So, I always keep the negatives and all the other kinds of images. And then I always scan at least 600 DPI in the TIFF format, but I prefer 1200 DPI. Actually, you can always go smaller, but you can't always go larger. Alrighty.
All right, so part two, once you've actually gathered and digitized your photos using the tips that Maureen taught you, I talked about the organizing and tagging of those just to make sure that you're able to find them and capture the story in them. So some of the tips I talked about are sorting them for prepping the photo for archives for use elsewhere, making sure that you add information so that if you were to take that photo out and put it into another platform that actually reads metadata or at least does not take it out and keeps it intact in the file, that photo kind of works as its own mini archive. I gave some tagging tips and tools for seeing, editing, and exporting metadata. So that's the one of the things that I had talked about and referenced in the presentation is in that link that I set. It sounds like it's not working if you just directly click the link, but if you go into Roots Tech and you follow the path of that presentation, you'd be able to find the link. If you have any problems accessing it, just let us know and we're happy to send it on to folks.
I'm
It's
going
just
to
a
find
really
it right now, Nancy.
okay. Oh, excellent. Yeah, it's a really great step-by-step process of telling you how to understand what platforms actually read, edit, and export metadata, and it gives you steps and also tools and even access to a test file that you can use to really test things out. And then in the other part of the presentation, I talked about some sharing tools. So once you've actually organized and tagged your photos, what kinds of tools can you use to enjoy these photos with your family and for future generations? And so a lot of those have to do with a lot of social media platforms like Facebook, or it could be a platform like Collectionaire, which is a really great tool for indexing all the different photos and albums you have across different platforms and linking it to a family tree, which is a really cool thing. So there's a lot of good tips and information in that on how to share. And then 3 key takeaways from part 2 were really the top tip is to use nested folders on whatever system you use to organize your photos, because it really makes these things consistent to be able to grow with the photo collections that you have. If you have a system of, let's say it's dates, and then people, or people and then dates, it just really will allow you to neatly find a bucket in a place for every photo in a really consistent fashion and grow as your photos grow. One of the cool things too, the benefits, is that if you organize your photos with a tool or a platform that allows details to come in and out as metadata, those photos will carry the story of the who, what, when, where, and why with them wherever they go. And that's great because then they're really independent of the tool itself. It's just the file is the container for the information, and that information should be able to go into other platforms that read it. Even if it's only reading the date or location, a lot of platforms will at least read that, even if they don't read people. And that saves you work and also just makes it easier to present the whole story of the photo. And there's more and more organizations and platforms that are actually using metadata in our industry. Maureen actually was part of a presentation that covered that too during Roots Tech. And then another thing that we talked about are some sharing sites that sharing sites will compress photos and trap details potentially. So you really want to make sure before you actually take the hard work that you've done to organize these photos and put them someplace that actually will not allow it to go elsewhere, or you use that platform to organize and tag your photos, but doesn't allow the information to come out with the photos. You want to make sure before you invest that time that you really evaluate carefully and know what you're working with. So on to the Q&A. And this part is the digitizing Q&A for Maureen. You might be,
Oh,
I'm putting some links
I'll
in.
be
No, that's
right
okay.
back. I'm just putting a link right in the
Yeah,
chat,
no, I figured
which
you were
is the
answering.
metadata class. Here we go. And all of the Roots Tech presentations are up for another year. And by the way, if you missed our last year's presentation, those are available as well. So there's a ton of content on the Roots Tech website. So my digitizing Q&As that came in were, would you suggest taking old photos off the black paper that they are glued to? If yes, what would be the best process be? So I actually do not recommend that you take your photos off those black paper album pages. 99% of the time, there is nothing written on the back of those photographs. And if you lose the context of what's on the page, you've lost the story. If you just can't stop yourself and you just really want to take them off that black paper, you must photograph each page so that you don't lose the context of the images, so that you can recreate it on another page, an acid and lignin-free page. Although there's no problem with keeping things in a black paper album, you just wrap them in a clean piece of muslin fabric and then put them in an acid and lignin-free box. Question 2 was, I am getting ready to start scanning and would like to purchase a good scanner. I used one at the Family History Library where you could feed in the pictures and it would scan the front and the back, so it was fast. I have one of those. It's called a Scan Snap, and I don't recommend it for photos. I have heard that they're not the best options, and I should go with a flatbed scanner, which sounds slow, and I can't deny it. It is slow. But after all this work, I want to do a good job. So my thoughts are, if you have 20th century or 21st century prints that are in good condition and they're not sticky, they don't stick together, there's nothing on them, you can use one of those sheet-fed scanners. But beware, because it might actually eat your photo. I would never put anything older than that in one of those sheet-fed scanners because you don't know what it would do. There's various thin paper, thick paper, cardstock. Absolutely not. I use a flatbed scanner. That is my scanner preference. When I have oversized images that don't fit on my scanner, I mean, you can scan them in pieces and stitch them together digitally. I actually use my phone for that. I have a really good smartphone. There's no reason why I shouldn't do that. And why do I need to save the negatives? I think I just explained that, which is you can get a much better scan and from the image, the negative, than you can from the images oftentimes. Yeah, flatbed, exactly, Gary. It's quality, not speed. How should I number images that I scan from albums? This is a great question because a lot of people are asking me to look at their photo albums, and what you need to do with a photo album is see the context of the images on the page, but also how they lay in the album. So say you have an album with 4 pictures on a page. You know, it's a Victorian cabinet card or carte de visite album. You number everything 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, actually, 1 left, 1 right, 2, 1 bottom left, bottom right, and then so each number, like 2 would mean page 2, and then I number the pages with a light pencil, so you always know where they are on the page, because that can really matter, because your ancestor has put those albums together with intent and purpose. They have spent time figuring out how they're going to lay those pictures in the album. So when you scan them, you can then digitally recreate the order of those images. So say you got 4 pictures, let's just review. 1 left, 1 right, 1 bottom left, 1 bottom right, and you go from that. And if you're doing the back and the front of them, which you should be doing if you can get them out without destroying the album, you put an A for the front and a B for the back. Now, if you're using Memory Web, you can link those with the back front linking tool, which is pretty cool. All right.
All right. Let's see. Go on to the next one here. Okay, organizing Q&A. If I have my own folder structure and a family member gives me a copy of their photos in their own, very different way of organizing photos. What's the best way to fold these into my own folder structure? That's a really great question.
That's a great question.
Yeah, it's kind of a square peg round hole question. So how do you do it? Probably the first thing that I would recommend is you may want to create a temporary place to put them, or a temporary folder where it just is labeled with that relative's name given to you on such and such a date. And then you can use that to work and look at the photos and the structure inside of it, and then gradually bring those into your own organizing system. That way they're backed up. You do have them labeled with that person's name. And then give yourself a little bit of time. But if it's really vastly different, you can always just keep it as a separate folder within your folders. If you have an organization that also includes like family name, it might fit in there neatly that way. But it is tough to work with very different structures, but just little by little, you can probably merge the two. Question number 2. I have multiple backups of my photos organized and stored on my computer and external drives. Why would I want to put these on the cloud? It's one of the points that I made in the presentation, which is just you want multiple copies, and cloud storage is a great option because it is not hardware dependent and is usually replicated depending on what kind of platform you're using in multiple places. So there's a lot of good backup and redundancy, which can make it a very strong place to put at least one of your copies of your photos. Question number 3, I added metadata to files using an organizer. Why does only some of it show up when I open the file on my computer? That is because your computer, unfortunately, is not necessarily going to be able to read all the metadata fields. If you use an organizer that allows you to do things like adding people and add that information as IPTC metadata, it's just one of the varieties of metadata, but it's really a recommended standard. It may not be something that most computers just through their own, Explorer or file viewing system would be able to pick up, but the information is there. So that's where that sheet that we were referring to earlier, and Maureen posted the link to, really can come in handy, because if you use those steps, not only do we tell you like here's a file you can use to look at, you could certainly use your own, but we also give you some free tools that you can post your file to so that you can really check under the hood and make sure that the information is still there, or what information is available in a file.
I just posted the Roots Tech link for that, Nancy.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Hopefully that one works.
Let's hope. Hopefully you don't have to sign up for an account, log in, all that kind of stuff. Somebody try it out and let me know. If not, let us know and we'll figure out a way to send it to you. It does. Great.
Oh, thank you, Anne.
Awesome.
Wonderful. Oh, should we answer some of the questions that we're seeing here?
Sure. Let me go up to the top. What is the best way to store records like birth certificates? Larry, I'll take this one, Nancy,
Mhm.
which is polyester sleeves are great. Uh, I actually buy mine at Staples. They're the notebook pages that are polyester. They are actually safe to use with your images and your certificates. The best way to archive slide and photos. Larry, I think you should watch my presentation, either this year's presentation or last year's, to go over the whole overview of how to archive slides and photos. Now, slides can be stored in slide trays without any problem. You can also buy archival pages for them. They're non-PVC plastic. I bought some of those myself this year. And photos as well. I put everything in polyester sleeves. And archive by year, by person, or event. Well, it varies a little bit. So I organize my old stuff by person or family. You know, if I have a group of like my mom's siblings all together, I'll put that under the surname. By event, you can do that as well. You can have a mixed system. If it's a modern collection of photographs, then I create a folder. Like I scanned all my slides last summer, and they are all in nested folders, Nancy. Just as Nancy
Yay.
teaches. So I have like something that says, oh, here's all the slides, and then here's all the categories for the slides, like my trip to California and 19 blah blah blah, stuff like that. And there's that. Should family historical documents like birth and death certificates, letters be included along with photos in your storage plan method? They can be once you've stored everything in not in polyester sleeves. You can intersperse them with your photographs. I know some people like to keep them separate, but if you have a series of folders on, say, your grandfather, and then one of your folders could be, and we did this as an archivist, so we'd have all the photographs of that person, and then we would have a folder that would say historical documents, and put those together. And the best scanner settings is just like with photos, 600 to 1200 DPI.
And sidebar question I have on that, you would want to scan those in full color also, right?
Oh,
Even if they were black
absolutely.
and white?
Absolutely. Even if
Okay.
it's black and white, I scan in full color.
Okay.
And just so we're Marie's question about or comment about how definitely scan vitals and back them up, absolutely. And if you think that those documents that you're finding on all those genealogy websites will be there in 5 years, I am a personal uh, proof that that is not the case. Licensing terms expire. And some records I waited a really long time for. They finally online. I downloaded them. I have them all organized on my computer with the people. They are no longer available. The licensing went away. And if I hadn't saved them, I don't know what I would do. Start over, I suppose. So please, 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 when you find a document online, make sure you click the way to download it so you have it, because it might not be there the next time you
That is a great tip.
go back. It was really surprising to me. I was like, what? I waited 5 years. They're finally online and then they're gone. Um,
Wow.
before Linda, this is eye popping. Before my dad passed, he gifted me 56 albums loaded with family photos, some going back to the 1800s. He created them chronologically with names, places, etc. Ooh, he put them in those terrible magnetic photo albums. Yes, you need to remove them. You need to put them in a better album. And there are great ones out there. I actually live about 5 minutes from this place called Rag and Bone Bindery, and they make the most beautiful albums. You will have to use photo corners and sleeves to sort of make the arrangement the same way that your dad did. But it is possible, and they do have a clearance area, so I picked up some albums over there for not very much money. It's called the Rag and Bone Bindery. You can also get albums on Gaylord. I think Gaylord's 25% off sale goes until the end of March if you use PD25. Give it a try.
It's a nice
Um,
discount.
yeah, yeah, yeah. My goal is to remove them and put them in archival. They are stuck like glue. Right. So you can use Glide dental floss to try to wiggle that underneath the images and see if they come out. Uh, you want to be really careful though, because a well-known genealogist who had me on his podcast told me that he did that and cut the head off one of his ancestors. So you want to be really careful about the beheading of ancestors. Um, so just do it carefully. And if they're still stuck like glue, email me, Linda, and I'll give you some other options, although that is the best option. The glue does release over time, but it could ruin your images in the meantime. Nancy, this is for you. James, where might I find a more complete description of nested folders?
So if you listen to my presentation, then it will have more details on what folder structures I recommend. There's really no right or wrong system, but I give a few examples of ones that I think are good ones. Sorry, I have a hair in my eye. And one of my favorite ones is doing it by date. And then because you can use date very loosely. It could be, the 1800s if you happen to be lucky and have any from that era. It can be, 1910 as a decade. Or it could even be, 1910 to 1940, whatever it is. You can make it a very loose structure that fits the nature of your folders or your photos. And then you can break it down further. And then if you have photos that you've taken from 2000 and beyond, you can do it by year. You can even do it by month. And so starting with date, I find to be a very great way of working with them. And then you can go by event, like maybe it's 1950 and Thanksgiving, and put those into a folder. So if you listen to the presentation, there's a whole section on some recommendations on how to nest them. But it's a great question.
Yeah. Anne is loving our informal Q&A with your hair in the eye, Nancy.
Thank you. Yes, it's still there. Okay, good.
You never know with these live things what's going to happen. You can choke, you can sneeze. It is what it is. And the next question is for you as well. How do I rotate a photo in Memory Web Desktop? And there's a part B to that question.
Gotcha. Hi, Mick. We've been chatting a lot lately, so thanks for joining today. So right now in the desktop version of the app, there isn't the ability to rotate a photo. It's only in the iOS version, but we're going to be adding that in the desktop version as well. And that's a great question. And then after uploading photos using MemoryWeb and looking in the history, some photos say uploaded and others say uploaded using
must be web upload.
Web upload. Okay, so if you're looking in the history, it's going to tell you lots of different things if you're looking in the desktop tool. And there's a whole bunch of videos on MemoryWeb's desktop tool if anybody's interested on YouTube. But it will tell you whether the photo uploaded successfully. It will let you know if there is a duplicate, because sometimes you might be uploading something from your computer that you've already uploaded, maybe from your iPhone or your other device, or through the website itself. And that brings us to your other part of this question. If it says uploaded using web upload, that means it was uploaded from the website version of the app directly through your computer. So that's to distinguish how those were uploaded. And chances are that might have been a duplicate to one that you had tried to also upload from your computer. If there is ever a duplicate, the link has a link on there to show you, it'll tell you the file name and where it was stored on your computer using the desktop tool. And you can click on that and it'll actually show you the photo. So if you're not sure what that photo was, you can do a quick investigation that way and look at what that was. And that was a great question.
Yeah, and Linda, yeah, I mean, your dad obviously wanted to organize them in some way for you, and that is a wonderful thing. I have some that my mom put together years ago. She made an album for me. I'm the oldest, so I have a whole album, a whole magnetic album just dedicated to me. My sister and brother share an album, and what's happened is she did them so long ago that now the photos just fall out. I didn't have any trouble getting them out, so the glue, gave up the stickiness at some point. But it sounds like yours are more recent sticky, so that's not going to happen anytime soon. Gary, you want to know about scanning negatives. So I've scanned my 35 millimeter negatives. You have 620. Ooh, when you say as small as a thumbnail, all I can think of is 110 film. or disc film. And I think, no, Gary, you can't scan disc film. Everybody has tried. Unfortunately, if you don't have prints from the disc, there isn't any sort of workaround for the disc film, which was tiny, tiny, tiny on a wheel. A short-lived, tragic photo moment. Uh, if they're really small, you can still scan them. Yeah, he has 4 or 5 scanners. Yeah, Gary, the technology really does accumulate, doesn't it? I have 4 or 5 scanners myself. And sometimes I think about getting another one because why not? I have scanned a lot of stuff all day long. I hope I answered your question, Gary, but scan what you can. And if you do a workaround for the thumbnail size, which I think you're talking about 110 or even disc film, let me know. All right. Do we have any questions in the Ask a Question, Nancy?
Let's see.
Duplicate. Any further updates on the availability timeframe of the duplicate finder?
Yes, and you know what? I'm actually going to acknowledge that with John has a comment too, where he says version 4.1.2.0. I'm assuming that's good symbol. So John is actually one of our beta testers of the duplicate finder. So that's great feedback. Thank you, John. So our plan is that we're going to pending. The release of products can always be changeable, but our plan is to actually release it on April 5th. So it should be available then, and we'll make an announcement when it is. If you currently have the duplicate finder, or excuse me, the desktop tool installed, it will prompt you to update it if you wish to. And if you don't currently, you can certainly download it and install it on your computer through our website.
I need to take like a month's vacation, Nancy, to fix all the dupes.
Yeah, there can be a lot of dupes.
It
And
can be
I'm
a
going
lot
to,
of dupes, especially when you scan at different resolutions and then you can't find the image. But now I don't have that problem because I have memory web, so I can find what I need. But anyway, we have Anne said that she can camera scan 110 negatives using a special holder in a light box. That's great. You have a workaround. Larry wants to know why TIFF versus JPEG. JPEG is a compressed format, and if you start editing with it, you will lose quality, but with a TIFF, you never do. And Susie said, missed the name of the duplicate finder. It's called the duplicate finder on Memory Web.
it
Very
is,
simple.
it's part of our desktop tool.
Yeah.
And it's just something you can use. It's an add-on tool that when you have a Memory Web account, it allows you to upload photos, allows you to export photos with metadata, and now it allows you to, or will allow you to find duplicates and choose the file you want to keep and also merge metadata.
Yeah. Catherine would like a chart that shows the pros and cons of each photo program. One does not exist yet, Catherine. And the reason it doesn't exist is because the companies change their products all the time and we would be constantly updating it. You can, however, watch some of the past presentations on the Family History Metadata Working Group YouTube channel. And that might have information that you can use. What else? I think that is it, Nancy. Anybody else have any last minute questions for either of us? Are we have any more slides, Nancy? We do, actually.
Oh, we do. Yes.
Yeah. Oops.
Come back on here.
Here we go. Right. We thought we'd update you. Thank you so much for coming. What's new and on the horizon for both myself and for Memory Web. Yes, Elizabeth, you'll be able to click this link, and then eventually I will be moving it over to my YouTube channel, but I'll leave it on Crowdcast for a little while. So first off, I have new consults available for people, which are on albums. So I have special pricing for letting me use your albums. I don't know how many of you missed my masterclass on albums, but I'll be offering it again in the fall. It was wonderful to do. I love seeing albums. They're my favorite photo mystery to work on, although every photo mystery is my favorite. And then bulk. A lot of people say, well, you have a sign up for 1 and a sign up for 3 photos, but I have a woman, I'm working tomorrow on a woman. She sent me 45. images, and it's like I like jigsaw puzzles, and this is like putting together a jigsaw puzzle of her family tree with the album. So ask me about bulk pricing because I really love working on more photos rather than less. And this weekend, this is March 26th and into the 27th. It's 24 hours. This is what we are calling Live Aid for Ukraine. The hashtag is History for Ukraine. That is the YouTube channel as well. There are presenters from all over the world, including myself, presenting for about 20 to 30 minutes. And it is a fundraiser for the Ukraine, but all the lectures are free. And this coordinator is amazing. She put this conference together in 2 weeks. And I believe the keynote speaker is Princess Diana's brother. So he, I think, opens up the conference on Saturday, and it is a 24-hour clock, and then everything is available on that YouTube channel for 2 days. So watch for me there, and watch for all your other favorite genealogists, because they're literally people from all over the world. If you see an odd time that says AETN or something like that, that's Australian Eastern Time. So they have many time zones over there as well. And then if you would like to sign up for my newsletter to be in the know, here is a link for it. I know some of you came through my newsletter, but just in case, and please share this with someone because you get an extra little handout for that. We don't have a handout for this, but you'll be able to get one. And then Nancy has a lot of news on her front as well.
I do. So the duplicate finder we just spoke about. So we are aiming to have that out on April 5th. So look out for that, either through social media, you'll be alerted, or if you currently have it installed, it will give you a message to update it. We also have a new feature in the web version of our app, which is in the album section. I'm sorry, excuse me, actually in the photo section, not the albums. You can choose to pick a day and find all the photos that are in your collection from that day from across the year. So if you have lots of photos taken on July 4th, you can type in July 4th. And if you have 50 years of photos on July 4th, you'll get that right there. And it'll show you all those photos. So that's a fun feature. And then we also have a new version of the iOS app coming very soon as well. So that should be sometime in the next few weeks. And that fixes some things that had there's sometimes a discrepancy of counts of photos compared to the website app, and we've rectified some of those things. So those are going to be some of the things that are fixed in that new version coming up.
And
or enhanced, I should say.
I just included a link if you're not on the Memory Web newsletter list. You can join that as well. And Nancy, I just want to say that this day feature, I don't know why this is, but I tend to take pictures on certain days, like days. I mean, not just my birthday or my husband's birthday, but other days. It's like they're all clumped, and I'm like, what's so special about, the 29th of April? But
That's funny.
It's very funny. It's like, oh, I must be picking up it's 29th of April. Let's go out and take some pictures. I don't really know what that's all about, but it's very strange.
Well, you are a detective, so maybe you can figure out the thread.
I might have to think about what the pattern is there. Is there a guide or recommendation on what to put in the various metadata fields? We haven't done that, but that actually sounds like a really good webinar, Nancy.
And it's a great question.
It's a great question. If we could do a webinar on that, like a short one.
Definitely. Most definitely. Yeah.
We're going to talk about that.
Thank you, Rob.
Yeah, because we can tell you like what's important to put in there and how to phrase it. And I mean, we got caption and date, but it's more than that, because if you're using like Memory Web, for instance, you can put in approximate dates and things like that. How do you do that? I think we should do it. I think we should do this webinar, Nancy. I think we should do a short one. Raise your hands if you think that's a good idea.
Yeah, let us know.
That's exactly what I was looking for. Rob, we haven't created it yet, and that's how some of the best webinars come up, from your questions.
Excellent. Yeah, that's really great. Okay, we can definitely do
All
that.
right, Nancy, what's your email address? Nancy D, right?
Nancy D at memoryweb.me.
That's Nancy if you want to send her a note, and I am Photo Detective. And I think we're good. Thank you all for joining us today.
Yes, thank you. Lots of great questions.
Great questions. Please repeat the conference name on YouTube. Oh, it's History for Ukraine. That is the hashtag, and I believe you can find it. Let's see if I can find it on YouTube. It would just give me just a second, Nancy. I'm sure you must can say something else while I'm looking for it. I'm pretty excited about it. Although they gave me stop. They gave me an 11 o'clock Eastern time slot. So nope, it's not up yet because it isn't happening. But I will give you the email address.
And is that 11 o'clock p.m., Maureen?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, Nancy.
Okay.
For someone who frequently gets up before the sun, my husband laughed. He actually spluttered. He was laughing so hard. He goes, "And how are you about to do that?" I was like, "I don't know." He goes, "I think I'm going to go out the entire next day." Here's the website for History for Ukraine. I'm on at 11. Amy Johnson Crow's in at 10:30 Eastern. So I can't check. And there's a printable PDF. If you go on Twitter, or I think I put it on my Facebook page as well, you can print out the PDF of who's speaking and when. And I need to do that because there's actually some really fabulous talks that, we got to pick our own topics. So these speakers are talking on things that they really love. So I would check it out. It's pretty cool. Natalie Papier from England put this all together.
That's incredible.
Amazing person. I've never met her. I would love to meet her. Anyone who can put together a conference in 2 weeks of this magnitude, she can do anything.
That's incredible.
Anyway, do we have anything else to add, Nancy?
I think that's it. I don't think we have any other questions.
We don't. We've gone
last
about
scan.
45 minutes.
Okay, great. All right. Well, I think we've covered it then.
We have. When I will eventually put this up on my YouTube channel, as I mentioned, and I'll edit out some of this sort of chatter at the end. Update it a little bit.
Can you edit out where I was playing with my hair to get the out of my eye?
I don't know. I will see. That might be tricky.
Okay.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much. Let us know. Email us both and let us know what you'd like to hear us talk about some more, because we can come up with ideas, but that doesn't mean that that's actually what you want to hear. So let us know. We're always open to new ideas.
Most definitely.
Thank you so much. All right, I'm going to
Thank
end the broadcast. Have a lovely rest of the week and weekend, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.